Hello, welcome to Miniature Realms, and today's video is rather snappily titled Pimp My Road. But let's talk to you a little bit about how I got there. So those of you who've been following the Delve into Flames of War 15mm World War II gaming will have noticed plenty of painting tutorials and some project vlogs. And within those project vlogs, you get to see the table and some of the terrain collection that I've been building up. And I'm quite happy with the way it's going. I've got some nice MDF buildings. I've got a lovely map from Geek Villain, and I've got some lovely roads from Geek Villain as well. And they are cloth, and they go over my fleece mat. Fantastic. But I have these dirt roads, and while they do a version with more of a kind of tarmac style road, it wasn't quite what I was after. And as I was building my table, I really wanted to kind of make my build up of buildings look a little bit more like a town centre. So I can do village very, very nicely and do rural very, very nicely, but I wanted something that looked a little bit better for a sort of town makeup, really. And I was thinking about building a town square and cobblestones and things like that. So I started searching online, and it brought me back to Battlefield in a Box, which is the stuff that Gale Force 9, Flames of War, so Battlefront really make for 28mm, but then also to support their Flames of War game and their Team Yankee game, etc., etc. Now I've got some Battlefield in a Box stuff already, mainly for 28mm, things I use for Lord of the Rings, funnily enough. But I haven't really looked too much detail at the Flames of War stuff. I always thought it looked super nice, but a little bit too clean, so it needed a little bit of weathering and things like that. And I quite often then just end up resorting to MDF. But time is very, very tight in terms of painting my own miniatures with painting other people's miniatures for my day job. So I'm more and more looking at solutions for terrain which is almost ready out of the box, which made me sort of turn back to the Battlefield in a Box solutions for Flames in a War. But then I go back to that kind of clean look. It's not a criticism of it; it's actually fantastic stuff, but it doesn't really fit in the way that I want my terrain to look. I feel that you can buy the individual components for Battlefield in a Box, the Flames of War mat, you can buy the buildings and things, and you whack them on the table and they look great, but they don't look like they're telling one single story. And some of that is just because the buildings look like they're floating in a field, and you could wave that criticism at my own table. I'm trying to build little gardens and things around the buildings. Noticed actually there's some gardens being released soon by Battlefield for Battlefield in a Box for Flames of War. But anyway, I digress. So I started looking at things, and I decided to buy some of the Cobblestone Roads and sections like that made by Gale Force 9 for Flames of War. And I noticed these wonderful cobblestone squares. I haven't been able to get hold of them at all anywhere. So I thought I'd start looking around for some solutions that would go with the cobblestone roads if I can get hold of them. And all of this stuff was fairly hard to get hold of. Different online stores to get all the things I needed. I know they're still behind with production a little bit after COVID. So I purchased a few things, and I ended up buying the Eastern Front Ruined City as well, because it has these two wonderful big squares pre-painted, and then you get the plastic buildings you have to paint yourself. And while I don't need them right now, I thought, well, it's the way to go. So let me take you through and show you what I've got, and then I'm going to take you through later on in the video how I plan to add a little bit of extra paintwork and weathering and things to them to really kind of blend them into the terrain. So as I said, I picked these things up from a number of different manufacturers. Battlefield Hobbies was the main one. I think I picked a few bits up from Panzer Command as well. So starting with Cobblestone Roads, and then there's a war-torn village bridge there as well. So I'm going to open them up and we'll have a little look at them. So it's almost like a bit of an unboxing, and then this sort of turns into a hobby video as well. So it's a bit of a mix, so bear with me. So this is the first component. So on this side is the Battlefield in a Box aimed for Flames at War. So this is the smaller scale stuff. And you get 6 of these basically foot-long strips of road. A small section which you're supposed to use as a crossroads, and this is a T-junction, and the only difference really is the small edge you get there. And I'm pretty sure that it's such a small thing that you could use this as another crossroads if you wanted as well. And then the Battlefield in a Box war-torn Village bridge. Now the Waterhorn Village stuff is 28mm. And I knew this would be slightly larger, but I thought it would work quite well. And this, the actual road gap is about 8cm, and these are just sort of under 8cm to 7. So the difference, you can't see very well there, but the difference there is very, very minimal. And it gave me a bridge that kind of matched. Now, I don't know if they do a bridge that matches this. I haven't seen it, but this was close enough for me that I thought that it would do the job and be sizable enough. And these are great. This is fairly flexible. And this is just resin. I think they look great. I just think they can look a little bit plain if you just plonk straight on a green mat. So overall, really, really good. But then I thought, right, I do like the rural stuff as well. And the roads that I've got from Geek Villain, as good as they are flat cloth. And this is probably about 5mm high. So they're not going to look good when you butt them up together. So shall I pick up some rural roads that match the same as this? And that's what I went on to next. Now this is the Eastern Roads bundle. So you're getting 2 kits in there. You're getting the standard rural roads and you're getting the expansion set. These are plain boxes that you get inside. When you get the bundle, it's not quite as pretty, but we'll open these up and then we'll have a closer look at them as well. So here we are, the whole bundle all laid out. So you've got 4-foot-long sections, again, same sort of size as the cobblestone ones. 2 bends, one slightly larger than the other. That's the main section, I believe. And then the additional stuff, so the road expansion, you've got a crossroads here, a short section, a short bend, a T-junction, the railway part with a little bit of extra track. I'm very tempted now to go and get some more railway, though it's Eastern, I think it comes with Eastern Front style railway and things like that, whereas while these are described as Eastern Front, they're just dirt tracks, aren't they? And then you've got this, which is really, really cool. And I didn't notice this was in the pack when I looked at it. And I'd love more, actually. I'd love a couple more of these. And this is to convert your road from the cobblestone into the dirt track, which I really like the idea of moving out of a sort of town centre into more rural areas. And it was one of the points I had with weathering, that I was going to weather up 1 or 2 of the normal cobblestone roads so that they blend in with this stuff better. Well, I don't need to do that as much now because I've got one of these. I'm tempted to pick up another expansion pack, so I've got another one of these. I'll get another little section of track and things like that as well, which would be cool. You do get some flock and things to add to it. I won't be using those, I imagine. I don't want it flaking off all the time. I will be adding some shading and things around the edges with an airbrush, but again, that's later part of the video. And the final part you see is the Eastern Front ruined city. Now, I wanted to just get these fully painted base sections to try and use them to replace the cobblestone that seems to be out of production or just unavailable for quite a while. And again, everywhere I went, I couldn't find them available. They're out of stock everywhere. But this bundle was such good value. I think the full recommended retail price is about 70, but I definitely got it for much less than that. And it gave me what I hope will work, and I haven't tried it yet, 2 ruined squares. But it also gives you a fountain, and then these multi-part plastic buildings. Now, I'm not going to be building these as part of this video. I'll probably come back and do something separate with that. I know Sonic Sledgehammer has recently done a painting tutorial on these, which is well worth going to check out. Obviously, fantastic channel, really, really big channel. Lovely painted guys. So go and check those out there. But I will return to these at some point because I love the idea of that kind of city stuff. But at the moment, I'm looking more kind of Normandy kind of style gaming. So I'm going to pop those away for a little while. But let's open them up and have a little look anyway. So as we're here anyway, I thought I'd have a quick look at these. And they do look pretty good. We're talking multiple floors. We've got fairly simple kits to go together. Imagine you're just gluing the corners in here. You've got floor supports, floors fit in there. No instructions, but I'd say no instructions required, to be honest with you. But I'll look forward to building those at some point. I just really don't need them right now. So what you're left with is this pre-painted fountain. You obviously got to trim off the little cherubs or children and what they are and stick them on there. That's quite cool. That won't take very long at all. I think I'll use that for Western as well as Eastern Front. Very, very cool little piece. But the bits I actually purchased it for were these. So you've got your ruined area for you to pop buildings on and things, and you have some path around the edges. And while the path is obviously thinner than the road, which you expect it to be, the plan is to be able to kind of use these as built-up areas, and then have roads running into them, running away from them, etc., etc., just to kind of build it up, and looks like you've got a rural area and maybe a small village square or town square as well. So that is the plan. So this is it straight out of the box on one of the mats I'll be using, and I've just used this really to illustrate beforehand what I want to try and achieve, because they are very well pre-painted. They are, as I said, straight out of the box, ready to go. That's the whole point of this range. But you always have this problem with them looking raised rather than sunken, which sometimes is good, sometimes isn't, and just sometimes looking like they're floating a little bit. So I want to try and add a little bit of extra weathering and tonal changes, which will hopefully just bring the whole kind of brightness and cleanness, which you'll get from this, out of it a little bit. And that's my plan. And most of it is going to be, if not all of it, is going to be with an airbrush and an airbrushing inks or things like inks. So some contrast paints, some army painter paints, anything that will still show some of the original colour through, but just tone it down. And I think on these roads, a lot of it will be around the edges, just to add a little bit of dirt, but I might also add some colour in the centre, add some greens and browns and things like that, just to kind of tone it down a little bit. And you could go the whole hog. You could even put water effects in some of these areas, some of the pits and pools, and I may well do that. I've got a UV lamp and some green stuff for water effects, but that's the plan anyway, is to go and see if I can just tone the brightness of these down a little bit so that they blend in with the existing terrain a little bit more. And that's what the rest of the video is going to be about. Now here we are over at the desk for airbrushing. I've got the essentials. Obviously I've got my airbrush, got my respirator. I do a lot of painting, safety first people, and of course the airbrushing sock. Don't we all have an airbrushing sock? Whatever comes to hand sometimes. I don't throw away all the old clothes, and sometimes I use them as cloths and things like that. But anyway, airbrushing sock aside, what is the plan? I am going to leave my mask off for a little bit of this while I'm talking, but when I pause the video and carry on afterwards, I will be placing it on. But so I'm going to start with a contrast paint, which I'm using more and more, and those followers of the videos will have seen this. I used to use inks a lot more, but I'm using these. They just seem to double up and work the same way, and they are easy to get hold of, etc., etc. So I'm using Garak Sewer, which is a really nice sort of dirty brown colour. Now I've added a little bit of water, probably about just 10% water. So 1 part water, 9 parts paint. I'm just going to very gently try and go in around the edges, and just see how it goes. Really, I tend to work quite organically. So let's have a look and see how it goes. And you can do it on these road sections as well. So I'm using exactly the same paints. It's still the Garak Sewer. I'm just going to go and edge the roads here. And you can see, just by adding a little bit to the edges. Now I don't want to put it here, because once the road sections go together, it'll end up looking like there's a checkerboard type of effect. So I want to make sure that I don't get it too much on those edges that meet up. But just by darkening the edges there that meets the mat, it will look like the sun's shining or the light's hitting the other part, or it's worn away more, and hide a little bit that connection. You can also add a little bit to the tracks, as the tracks are dug into the darker earth. I don't want to go too much. I don't want to completely obliterate existing dry brushing that is there, but just enough that makes it stand out a little bit. And that's really as simple as that. Let's see what it's like on Cobblestone Road. Again, there's already a little bit of detail here at the edges anyway. I just think it looks a little bit too bright. So much like the ruined city squares. Oh, sorry, I haven't got those, the actual city building bases. A little bit of interest around the edge there. I'll just tone it in a little. It's not groundbreaking, not changing much, but I believe that it'll look a little bit more realistic than it did before. A little bit less kind of toy-like. And it works on the bridge too. Just going where the shadow would be. And then on the underside, the bridge structure there. There we go, gone all the way around it now. And just added some dirt and grime. And it's something that applies to all of this. If you don't have an airbrush, you don't have to give up on the idea. There's plenty of ways of doing it. You can just apply washes straight to the edges and feather in a little bit, so you don't get the tide marks. That would be really important, to have some clean water on hand just to dab it away and blend it in a little bit. That would work good. And you can also dry brush as well, so get the right browns and dusty colours and just dry brush around the edges, and that will help blend it into your gaming surface as well. Now I think these are looking great already, but you can do a little bit more. And I don't want to add loads and over messy it, but I want to add a different colour. So I'm going to use a green, and this is contrast Creed camo. There are many different greens out there. This is a fairly dull one, and I want to be a little bit more subtle with this, but it does work really well just to put in a few little extras. You don't want it covered green everywhere because you already mess it up. Maybe just the odd little patch on each section just adds a little bit more colour and interest and really kind of makes a difference. So as you can see, I've added the green and the brown to this section, and I did mention little pools of water, and I thought that I'll just show you how I do this as well. So I use Green Stuff Wild UV resin, and you get these little UV lights as well, which just helps cure it quite quickly. So really, really simple. You just gently pour in some of the resin, and I just use the end of the nozzle to flan it out slightly. And then when you're done, excuse the airbrush compressor banging away in the background there. Shine your little light on it. And I'm going to use it with a paintbrush in case it hasn't fully cured, but that's solid there, simple as that. So I'm going to go on and do some of the other craters. And there we go. I left a couple just to show you what I think is quite a significant difference in the the finish of them. Just that dulling down makes it a little bit less toy-like. And the same on here. I've added a little bit more green around the edges on the earth ones because it blends into the green mat a little bit better. You see I've added some of the water effects on some of the others as well. But overall they're pretty cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish off these last two bits and then we'll go over to the table and we'll see what it looks like all set up on there. Here we are with the table all set up. Let's go in and have a little closer look. So I just think it's by adding the extra airbrushing, and the details are covered in the video. I think it's just made them blend in a lot more, especially the rural roads. I think they've come out really nicely. Getting the airbrush into those tracks and just sort of giving a little bit of extra shadow in there. It's really kind of made them pop and bring them out. And also obviously the puddles and things, I think are nice little simple touches as well. I really like this this joining piece here. I use the airbrush to make it look like the mud has been drawn onto the cobblestone road as well there. Now I think the cobblestone roads still look a little bit bright, partly that's the two massive lights I have over the gaming table for filming. So they're nice and bright and nice and clear, so it does reflect off them quite a lot, but they do look a little bit bright in places, so I may look to do some other things, but I'm much happier with them than I was straight out of the box. I also think that I need some more stuff here, and I've got some more buildings on the way, some more ruined buildings. So those two kind of squares there with the wrecked buildings in will be a lot fuller. But overall, hopefully the video was showing you what I was talking about in terms of making things a little bit more realistic and get it to blend in with the table. But I think it's an improvement on what I did before, and the rural roads have really come out well. As I said, just want to sort of tidy up this side a little bit, and I'll say untidy it up, probably the opposite. Just add a little bit more to those roads, and the scattered terrain may well do it. I may not actually need to do more painting. Might just need some little scattered terrain, some bits to sprinkle around to make it look like debris and broken wood and things like that. So I think that will be the next thing I do. And if you want to see how the sort of the table set up, and obviously it's not a fixed setup, if you want to see how the table set up progresses, check out my my vlog for Flames of War, because that will form quite a good part of that, and add into my collection for my sort of Normandy, and then moving into Holland and Belgium and things as well. So the terrain I purchase and set up for that will all be about that. Well, thank you very much for watching the video. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. It definitely helps the channel grow, and I love to hear from you as well in the comments. Your own thoughts and what terrain have you got for your table? What sort of things do you use? Is there anything you'd recommend? Any particular products, etc., etc.? So my name is Stuart. Please do get in touch on social media as well. You can check out the links to all of that in the video description. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook as well. Thank you again. Take care, and I'll catch you soon.